What would you do if you were fired for a ridiculous reason you knew was fake? In today's story, the protagonist was set up to fail. But the choice he made next is a masterclass in how to handle it. It all happened about 20 years ago. Back when I was in college. I'd landed a pretty sweet gig as an office sitter on weekends. The job was simple. I'd show up at 8 a.m. And once an hour, I'd do a quick check on things and handle the occasional phone call. The rest of the time was mine. I'd read, watch TV, or play games on my laptop. Honestly, I probably did no more than 10 minutes of actual work each hour unless something went wrong. For years, it was the perfect college job. The pay was decent. Holidays were double time. And I even got chances to cover weekday shifts for extra cash. It was during one of these weekday shifts that my boss, Mr. Davies, called me into his office. He told me the evening weekday position was opening up that very night and offered it to me. I accepted on the spot. He told me to punch out and come back at 5 p.m. to start my new role. The reason for the suddenness should be obvious: someone had just been let go. He accepted the promotion, not knowing this step up would put him on a direct collision course with a colleague who would make his life a living hell. Things were okay for a while. I'd start at 4 p.m., do my rounds, handle a higher volume of calls, and head home at midnight when my relief arrived. But after about 9 months, things took a turn. The daytime person, a woman I'll call Brenda, developed a massive attitude problem. She went from being a perfectly nice person to a total nightmare who complained about everything I did. For instance, one afternoon a system jammed at a remote site, and Brenda logged that she had called them. 5 hours later, my shift was well underway, and I saw the jam was still active. The specialist who could help the remote team was about to leave for the weekend. So, I called the site back to see what was going on. It turned out they did have a problem they couldn't solve. So I connected them with our specialist just before she left. I prevented a major issue and saved an upper-level employee from getting a call at home on a Friday night. My reward? I got yelled at by Mr. Davies because Brenda complained that I had ignored her log entry. My explanation that I was following up on an unresolved issue was completely ignored. From then on, my boss made me physically highlight important log entries to prove I'd read them. This became the new normal. I walked on eggshells around Brenda, grateful that our shifts only overlapped for about 5 minutes. As one commenter later noted, "This is a classic workplace problem. If you piss off someone at work, for whatever reason, they can make your life hell. Nobody is perfect, and if someone is there to call out any little mistake or try to highlight something to make you look bad, it will eventually make someone listen." And that's exactly what happened. I did the stupid highlighting, and my own log entries became ridiculously detailed, even referencing Brenda's earlier calls when I had to follow up on an issue she'd left hanging. The following summer, just after my 1-year anniversary in the role, I took a vacation out of state. About a week after I got back, Mr. Davies came down after everyone else had gone home. He asked me to describe, step by step, how I handled a specific daily update task. I walked him through my process. He then looked at me and said that I hadn't been doing it at all and that he was firing me. The reason? He claimed I had used the wrong update file, supposedly transposing the English date code with the French one from the day before. It was a complete fabrication. The newest update had already been applied anyway, so nothing was even wrong. It was just a flimsy excuse to get rid of me. They thought they had found a clever loophole to get around their own job security promise. This reveals the company's greatest fatal flaw, their arrogance, which ultimately sealed their fate. I left the office in a daze. My state is an at-will employment state, which generally means an employer can fire you at any time for any reason, as long as it's not for a legally protected reason like race or religion. I thought I was completely screwed. Defeated. I just started applying for other jobs. During my job search, I stumbled on a link about employment law. I clicked it out of curiosity. And as I read, I realized my former employer had made a colossal mistake. I remembered the employee handbook, which contained something called a job security clause. This clause was a promise that if our jobs were eliminated, the company wouldn't lay us off. Instead, they would retrain us for another open position within the company. It sounded great on paper, but in reality, it just meant management would invent reasons to fire people to get around the clause. But here's what their high-priced lawyers missed. While the state legislature's laws gave them the power of at-will employment, they had completely neglected case law, the precedents set by court rulings. The article I was reading cited a specific state Supreme Court case which ruled that having a job security clause in an employee handbook effectively waives the employer's at-will rights, converting the relationship to one requiring just cause. This meant they couldn't fire me for just any reason. They needed a real, provable one. And I knew their reason was a lie. This was the moment the entire power dynamic shifted. The company, with its team of expensive lawyers, was completely unaware that a college student had just found the legal dagger that would pierce their corporate armor. Armed with this knowledge, I sought out a lawyer. After a fantastic consultation with her, I started collecting my evidence. My former boss didn't realize I knew the software we used inside and out. I even ran this same program on my own computer at home. I started experimenting. I easily proved that the file date they used as evidence against me was baked into the update file itself. Their claim was that applying the update would change the date daily. I demonstrated to my lawyer that if you applied the same update repeatedly, it would always show the original file date, not the current date. I even used the vendor's public update archive to backdate my own copy by a year to prove it. Next, I showed her how that entire update task used to be automated. A simple script used to grab the file and process it every day. But a small change on the vendor's website had broken it. The fix was laughably easy. It literally involved deleting 3 characters from a single line of code, but no one bothered to do it because the employee who wrote it had retired. Then came the final pieces of the puzzle. The task was officially designated as a weekday-only task. At my firing, Mr. Davies had lectured me on how important this update was. If it was so critical, why wasn't it done on weekends or holidays? The vendor pushed out updates on those days, too. I proved it to my lawyer by showing her the update file from Christmas morning. And if it was so vital, why had no one bothered to fix the simple automation script? As one person commented online after hearing my story, a 21-year-old contacting the appropriate people to get info and to correct an injustice. This is how you do it. Not letting people stab you in the back just because you're young. With my dossier of evidence complete, my lawyer contacted the company. She laid it all out for them, the state Supreme Court precedent they had violated, and my mountain of evidence that proved their just cause for firing me was a complete fabrication. Checkmate. They were backed into a corner and had no choice but to settle. Their fancy High-priced lawyers didn't do their homework, but I did. I have to thank the wonderful librarians in my life who taught me information literacy skills. They truly paid dividends. While the exact terms of the settlement are confidential, it was a good portion of my former salary. I was also able to collect unemployment benefits during that time. I imagine a newly revised employee handbook was issued right before they cut my check. About a year later, I saw a Facebook post from a former coworker saying his job there had ended. It turned out the company had suffered a huge loss in revenue, and the entire site where I had worked was shut down. Brenda lost her job. Out of the 50 or so employees at that office, only about 10 were moved to another location. It became crystal clear that my termination was never about a transposed file. It was just a layoff disguised as a firing to get around their own job security clause. This story is a powerful reminder that knowledge is your sharpest weapon in the face of injustice. Taking the time to do your own research can empower you in ways you never thought possible. So, let me ask you, have you ever been in a situation where a little bit of research completely turned the tables? What did you discover?